The prisoner's fear of the air in the underground cell was damp and heavy. Dim orange lights flickered along the stone walls, casting long shadows. Kira sat on the cold floor, her violet skin dull from exhaustion, her silver eyes half closed. She had not eaten in days, and every sound in the corridor made her tense. She had been a scout for her people, swift and proud, but one mistake during a raid had cost her freedom. Now she was a prisoner on a human-controlled mining planet. The guards here were cruel, their voices cold, and the stories she had heard from other captives played over and over in her mind. Humans did not just kill aliens, some hunted them. Some even ate them. The heavy metal door to her cell groaned open. Kira's heart pounded. She expected to see one of the guards, maybe with a tray of thin, tasteless rations, or worse, chains to drag her away. Instead, a tall figure stepped. Inside, he wore black combat armor with no prison insignia, his helmet tucked under one arm. His hair was short and dark, his eyes sharp but not unkind. He stepped closer and she pressed her back against the wall. Her voice shook. "If you're going to kill me, do it fast." The man paused, clearly surprised. "I'm not here to kill you," he said quietly, his tone calm. "And I'm definitely not here to eat you." Her brows furrowed, not sure if she believed him. Without another word, he pulled a small canister from his belt and handed it to her. She stared at it, suspicious. "Water," he explained. Her throat burned with thirst, but she still hesitated. "Why?" she asked. He crouched down so they were eye level. "Because you don't deserve to die here." His name was Captain Ryan Cole, though he didn't look like any of the prison staff she had seen. His armor was different, lighter, built for movement. There was no cruelty in his face, only determination. He reached into a small pack and tossed her a ration bar. She caught it clumsily, still watching him as if waiting for the trick to reveal itself. After she drank and ate, he stepped to the cell door and listened. Footsteps echoed faintly in the hall. Slow, but getting closer, he turned back to her, his voice low. "If you want to live, follow me. Now." Her pulse raced. "What's the price?" she asked. "No price," he said. "Just move." Every instinct told her to distrust him, but every moment she stayed here brought her closer to death. She stood slowly, her legs weak. Ryan helped steady her, his touch firm but careful. It was strange. No human had ever touched her without violence before. They stepped into the corridor. Ryan led her down a narrow path lit only by thin beams from overhead pipes. The air smelled of rust and fuel. They passed other cells, some empty, some holding aliens who stared in silence as they went by. Kira whispered, "Who are you really?" He glanced at her briefly. "Someone who doesn't like what's happening here," was all he said. When they turned a corner, voices shouted behind them. Ryan grabbed her hand and pulled her into a side tunnel. They moved quickly, boots splashing. Through shallow water, Kira's mind raced. Why would a human risk his life for her? Was this some trap, some new game of cruelty? But when she looked at him, she saw no mockery in his expression, only focus. Finally, they reached a rusted service hatch. Ryan forced it open and gestured for her to go first. As she climbed into the darkness beyond, she realized something unexpected. She was still afraid, but not of him, somehow. She believed he might actually be telling the truth, and that made her more uncertain than anything else. Asterisk, the escape through the shadows, the tunnel beyond the hatch was narrow and damp. Pipes lined the walls, dripping water that echoed in the darkness. Kira moved carefully, her bare feet silent on the metal grating. Behind her, Ryan climbed through, closing the hatch quietly. "This way," he whispered, leading her deeper. Dim light from his wrist torch illuminated the path. Every turn they took seemed to take them farther from the prison, but Kira could hear distant clanging and muffled voices. The guards had discovered her empty cell. "Why are you helping me?" She asked again. Ryan didn't slow down. I told you, I don't like what's happening here. That's not an answer, she pressed. He glanced back, his eyes sharp. I'm undercover, gathering evidence of illegal experiments on prisoners. Your prison isn't a prison, it's a lab. Kira's stomach turned. She had heard whispers from other captives, strange rooms where some were taken and never returned. Now the rumors felt real. And you need me for this? She asked. I need you to survive, he replied simply. You know parts of these tunnels I don't. Without you, I won't make it out. The tunnel sloped downward. Warm air began to replace the cold, carrying the smell of oil and machinery. They emerged into a massive underground chamber, an old mining shaft long abandoned. Rusting machines sat in the shadows, their shapes barely visible in the dim light. Stay close, Ryan said, his voice low. They crossed the chamber, weaving between broken equipment. But halfway through, a metallic growl echoed from the darkness. Kira froze. Two glowing red eyes appeared ahead, followed by a hulking shape, a prison guard beast, part machine, part animal designed to hunt escapees. The beast lunged, metal claws scraping against the floor. Ryan fired his sidearm, bright flashes lighting the room. The shots slowed the creature but didn't stop it. Kira spotted a loose pipe on the ground, cracked it, and swung hard at the beast's head. The blow knocked it sideways, giving Ryan time to fire into its exposed joint. With a screech of tearing metal, it collapsed in a heap. Nice swing, he said with a small grin. Kira didn't smile back. Let's keep moving, she replied, her voice tense. They climbed a service ladder and entered another narrow passage. This one was warmer and brighter, with faint humming vibrations through the walls. Kira recognized it immediately. This leads to the outer desert, she said, but the exit will be guarded. They moved cautiously, every step bringing them closer to freedom. The sound of heavy boots echoed ahead. Ryan pulled her into an alcove just as a patrol passed. 3 human guards with rifles and scanning drones. They waited in silence until the footsteps faded. When they reached the end of the passage, Kira saw moonlight spilling through a grated opening. The desert stretched out beyond, its sands glowing under the twin moons. For the first time in days, she could smell fresh air. Ryan knelt by the grate, starting to loosen the bolts. Once, we're out, we head for my ship, he said. It's hidden about 2 kilometers from here. Before Kira could answer, the sound of engines rumbled above. Searchlights swept across the desert, bright beams cutting through the night. They know, she whispered. Ryan's expression hardened. They're not going to let us walk out of here. In the distance, dark shapes moved against the sand. Armored hunters closing fast. Kira's heart raced for the first time. She wondered if escaping the prison was just the start of something even more dangerous. The bond beyond fear, the rumble of engines grew louder. Searchlights swept back and forth across the desert like giant white blades. Through the grate, Kira saw dark armored figures moving in formation, rifles ready. The hunters had found them. Ryan twisted the last bolt loose and kicked the grate free. Go, he said, pushing her through. The cold night air hit her face, and she took off running across the sand. Ryan followed close behind, his boots sinking into the soft ground. Blinding beams of light locked onto them. Gunfire cracked in the distance, bullets chewing into the sand near their feet. Ryan fired back with short, controlled bursts, forcing the hunters to duck behind the dunes. Keep moving, he shouted. The desert was open and merciless. No cover, no walls, only endless sand under the twin moons. Kira's lungs burned as they crested a dune. In the valley below, she saw it, a small, half-buried transport ship, its hull coated, with sand to hide it from patrols. That's it, Ryan said, breathing hard. They slid down the dune. But more gunfire rained from above. A bullet grazed Ryan's arm, ripping his sleeve, but he didn't slow. They reached the ship's hatch just as a spotlight pinned them in place. A hunter's voice boomed through a speaker, "Stand down or be destroyed." Kira turned to Ryan, her silver eyes wide. "They'll shoot us before we lift off," she said. Ryan's gaze shifted to the control panel beside the hatch. "Get inside and start the engines." "I'll cover you." She hesitated. "I'm not leaving you," she said firmly. He gave a faint smile, even under the strain. "You won't have to." Kira sprinted into the cockpit and activated the power systems. The ship hummed to life, the soft glow of the controls lighting her face. Through the front viewport, she saw Ryan crouched behind a dune, exchanging fire with the hunters. He moved with precision, every shot buying them seconds. The engines roared, kicking up clouds of sand. Kira slammed her palm on the hatch release and shouted into the comm, "Get in." Ryan broke from cover and ran for the ship, bullets chasing his heels. He dove inside just as the hatch sealed shut. "Hold on," Kira yelled, pulling the controls. The ship lurched upward, struggling against the weight of the sand. The hunters fired into the air, but the armor held. With a burst of thrust, they cleared the dunes and shot into the night sky. Kira kept her hands steady on the controls, her heart pounding. "You can fly?" Ryan asked between breaths. "I told you I was a scout." She replied with a smirk. The desert shrank beneath them as they climbed higher, the twin moons shining over the horizon. When they finally broke free into the upper atmosphere, the tension in the cabin eased. Ryan leaned back in his seat, wincing at his wounded arm. "You saved my life back there," he said. Kira glanced at him. "You saved mine first." In the cell, silence settled for a moment, broken only by the hum of the engines. Then Kira spoke again, her voice softer. "I thought humans were monsters. I thought you would hurt me. Instead, you gave me a choice. No one's ever done that before." Ryan looked out at the stars, his voice calm but firm. "Not all humans are the same. Remember that." As the ship's navigation plotted a course into deep space, Kira realized something had changed. Her fear of him had turned into something else. Trust. The human who was supposed to be her captor had become her ally. And wherever they were going next, she knew she wouldn't face it alone.